Hey, what's up, people? Yeah, Rhythm and Rhyme Recording Studio with Des 5. Today, we're going to be fixing two blowing Behringer speakers, Eurolive B1200D Pro. These are subwoofers, 12-inch. They're great speakers. They blew out. We got to fix them. What we're going to do is show you how to repair them. We're going to do it real quick. Hang with us. Please comment, subscribe, and like. What more can we ask for? All right, the first thing we're going to do, we're going to check the fuse. And the fuse is located right where the power cord is. I just pulled it out. You just take a screwdriver and you pop it out, and here is the fuse. The fuse is a T6.3 amp, 250 watt slow blow ceramic fuse. And we test it. And we can see that the fuse is good. It has continuity. We're going to put it back into the case. You're going to need voltmeter, screwdrivers, soldering iron, and the heatsink compound. The capacitors that needs to be replaced would be the 47 microfarad, 35 volts. And this is the location that I purchased it from. We pulled out these screws. That's 12 screws for the main board. And then we crack it open with a little screwdriver. And there it is. And you have the wires connecting to the speaker we have to disconnect. So after isolating the box, we flip it over. And there's a couple of things we have to do. What we're doing, we're going to mark each screw, hold down screw, because there's two sets of screws here. There's one for the transistors and there's one for the case. So we're going to mark the case screws so we can know where to put them when it comes time to put everything back together. Unscrewing the cover. So after opening the case, we realized that the two capacitors, C2 and C7, are the bad capacitors. They're the ones that have the 47 microfarad, 35 volts that has to be replaced. I worked on this unit before because I had two of them to work on. And now what I'm going to do, I'm going to remove the screws for the transistors around the casing. All right, so after I'm finished removing the unit's transistor screws, it's time to remove the circuitry board. There's a main plate there that's holding the circuitry board down, and I have to remove it from the back plate. There's 4 screws there that has to be removed so I can get to those other 2 screws that you just saw. So after I'm finished, I just pull the plate off, and now that's basically the power supply and the power amplifier that's pushed the whole thing. It's finally separated, and I think this is the bulk of the work right there, to just basically just get to the circuitry. I still have to unpull those 2 screws at the bottom that's holding everything down. After pulling the 2 screws, that's the corporate that holds everything down, and the other part just falls right out. I have to pull the transistors away from the heatsink, and after you pull all the 8 screws, it should come right out after you pull everything away from the casing that it's in. So those are the 2 capacitors that need to be replaced. And what I did, I was using a GoPro camera, and I put a magnifying glass on the lens so it can zoom in a little bit more on the circuitry board. Most of these Behringer units are very similar to power supplies. So I'm just trying to give you an idea of where the capacitors are located. So if you're working on another unit, maybe this could be very helpful to you. So what I'm going to be using now is the desolder tool to remove the C2 and C7 capacitors. So to test it, we put the positive and negative together, and we got OL, which stands for overloaded. Check it the other way, overloaded. So this capacitor is the one we took out, which is no good. And this one here, the good one, we bought 51 microfarad, which is very good. Flip it around a little bit, check both sides, 51.3 microfarad. Excellent. Now I'm going to replace it with the good capacitors and make sure that the polarity is correct, of course. You have negative and positive, and it has to be in the right way. Now I'm removing the second capacitor. That's right next to it, actually. So after desoldering the capacitor, I pulled it out and also want to test that capacitor to make sure that that capacitor is no good as well. All right, so it's hard to see. Oh, okay, I moved the meter over a little bit, which is good. You see the OL representing that it's not giving you any reading. No microfarad is there. So you know that capacitor was bad. So I'm putting in the new capacitor, which I tested with the voltmeter. It was showing me 51 microfarad, which is not far from 47 microfarad. So as I solder, flux is your friend, and make sure that it has a good flow to the solder. So I'm giving you a close-up of the solder of the two capacitors and making sure everything is good. I'm going to just clip the leads and put it back in the unit. So before I put everything back in the box, what I'm going to do, I'm going to power it up. I'm going to plug in the AC cord. Voila, we got power. We got a power light. I'm jumping up and down. I'm doing backflips right now. You know what I mean? Because before we had no power light. So at this point, we know that the unit is working and we have to put it back in the box, which is the shell. It's somewhat like a heat sink. Compound has to be applied between the circuitry board and the shell. And then you apply the two screws and the cross beam on the other side. When I flip it over, you'll see it. It's in my hand. Has to be placed and screwed on and secured. All right, one of the things that I'm doing is to align the screws before I tighten them onto the casing. I line them across each other, kind of like you do a car tire. I do one on the left and one on the right so I can line it up correctly. After tightening down the board, we have to put on the transistors. The transistors have clips that has to be in place with it, and we have to make sure we apply the heat sink compound so it can dissipate the heat. After everything is secured, all the tools, we put in the power cord. We're going to turn on the unit to make sure we have power and we have a light, and we turn the unit over and check to make sure everything is cool, nothing is overheating. After we finish checking, we put on the case on the unit and make sure it lines up with the markers that I have applied. I place the amplifier inside of the speaker cabinet so it'd be closer to the woofer, and then I attach the wires. I then take the amplifier out and place it back where it belongs into the speaker cabinet.
This is all in real time. It's amazing.
Power cable, audio cable.
And let's turn it on. We got power. We got a signal.
As soon as we screw on the cabinet correctly, the rattling that you hear will go away.
We tested the unit and we just screwing back the 12 screws in. Anyway, that's it. We're good to go. I hear audio. Oh, they got the bass, I guess. Oh, I do hear the boost now. Whoa, you go, boy. Wow.
Please comment, subscribe, and like. What more can we ask for?
Hey, yo, this thing don't sound bad, man.